Welcome, friends, to the wall. Beyond the wall are the red biters. And the red biters, they will come, and they will bite, and they will destroy. One swift tip. Hey, as if by magic they turned up on cue. Fantastic. Right, yes, one thing I have learned over my time of building defences from red bitey folk is that if you place your turret right up against the wall, so here, the biters can actually attack it when they come charging up to your defences. Whereas you put it back one space from the wall, then they hurt the wall and not, in fact, your defences. That's a pro tip, kids. Take it, use it with my blessing. So, as you can probably tell, we have had a slight upsurge in the amount of alien infiltration going on, and that's not been particularly helpful. We've had to up our defences considerably, and that has involved the introduction of some wall-type behaviour. See, it's almost non-stop. I mean, every minute or so we'll get an incursion. Now, fortunately, the red biters are not too smart. Rather than simply circumnavigating their way around this wall, thus, I'll show you that move again, and bypass my defences, they prefer to charge straight at them. Suits me, dumbasses. So I've set up a rudimentary defence line for the time being. We'll come up with something slightly more robust as time progresses. But that will do quite nicely for the moment. So, what are we working on today? Right, well, last time we spoke, we just got the majesty and splendiditude, which is a word, because I say so, of steel furnaces. And we've employed some of those now, well, in fact, quite a few of these, in expanding our iron plate production, because frankly, you can never have too much iron plate. Copper at the moment is less of an issue. We've got a good queue of copper, and I've introduced 2 steel furnaces into the mix there, but we don't really need much more than that for the time being, as we've got plenty of output already. In order to feed the furnaces, we've had to increase our iron output, and as you can see, we've just got an iron mine here that has given up the ghost, so we'll just replace that while I'm in the area. And I also researched better power lines. I got a little bit fed up of having to use these wooden poles all over the place, and that'll be a gradual process to improve those. Our standalone stone mine here is still ticking along, but now that's turning it into bricks, because we're getting through a lot more bricks. And those are turning into walls, because obviously walls help keep the red biters at bay, much like an apple and the doctor. We've also got steel also now being automatically produced. Now, steel takes a heck of a long time to make. It uses 5, I think, iron plate to begin with, and then it doesn't exactly build at the fastest rate imaginable. There's one now. But the good news is you don't use a massive amount of steel all in one go. It tends to be more for special projects at this stage of the game anyway. So it's okay that it's only trickling up. I've got 60 odd in my backpack. I've got another 45 in a chest, and that'll just keep ticking along until I need it. The iron gears, plenty of those. They're doing very nicely. Iron plate, plenty now, ticking along at quite a speed. And I changed my my iron gear chest system here in order to keep up with pace. So we now have 2 inserters feeding the chest and 2 withdrawing from the chest, and as such we're building up a nice stash. I mean, the only downside really to building a stash of any resource is that by the time your actual creation of that resource is flagging a little, so it's not keeping up with demand, the first thing you know about it is when assembly machines stop. And that will be because the chest which was storing excess in has run out. So you will have actually run low a good 5-10 minutes previous. I don't care. I quite like having those resources available, particularly when I need to build stuff by hand, as I will do in a moment. So I'll just I'll make a judicious withdrawal here, and that should be plenty for what I'm going to show you in a moment. So yeah, we've got a good scattering of resources building up. The research is kicking along nicely, and any moment soon we should have the luxury to create plastics. Uh, and you'll go, plastics? Where did that come from? You were talking about iron furnaces not 5 minutes ago. Well, yes. So, what are we doing now? Crude oil. It is crude. It swears in front of its grandmother, and it never cleans its plate. Leaves its socks out for the. Oh, you get the idea. Right. So pump jacks. I've researched oil processing, and oil is absolutely mandatory for the mid to late session of the game, and so I'm going to set up a rudimentary initial pump system. In the next couple of minutes, because in order to make progress we're going to need some of that. Now the one thing about pumping out is the initial resource that you're most likely to use is the petroleum gas, and you will go through that very, very quickly. The problem is that if you're using storage of any description, which I'm going to research, if I've got it already, is that if you're storing the light and heavy oils as well, you will quickly fill up that storage. So, and as such, your refineries won't kick out any more petroleum gas, despite the fact that's what you need. So what you have to think on relatively quickly is, how am I going to use up these extra resources that are a byproduct of splitting crude oil into something useful? And the best way I've come up with of doing that so far is to turn that into fuel, and that fuel can then be used to power your power plants. On which subject we're going to need another power plant fairly soon, but we'll do that in a moment. And lo and behold, there's plastics. Excellent, good stuff. While we're at it, we'll grab sulfur as well, because we're going to need that before too long. Sulfuric acid helping towards the creation of batteries, and batteries are where things really start to get quite interesting on a power front. So we've got our 3 pump jacks going here, and what I want to do initially is build a shed load of pipes. So I'll just spam click this until I feel, yes, that's about the right amount. I've been tempted in the past to build an assembly machine that kicks out nothing but pipes, but frankly it has always felt like a waste of iron plate. I'd rather do it by myself and spam click it instead, and as you can see in the bottom corner, those are ticking along. Of course, the pipe to ground, which means that they don't clutter the place up quite so much, uses up 10 of those pieces of iron pipe, so inevitably you end up having to build more iron pipe after you've got your underground pieces. But actually that looks okay, and we're going to want 2 storage tanks initially. Right, so let's decide where we're going to plonk this. Okay, we'll put our storage area up here. And this is just going to be a storage area for crude. Nothing more exciting than that, but it allows us to store more than we need at a given moment. And it really doesn't matter, as long as your pipelines are set up in a relatively sensible fashion. It doesn't matter how many pump jacks you've got servicing those 2 tanks. So that's one of them hooked up. Of course, nothing's going to happen yet until I've got some power plumbed in. But let's whack these over as well. No. Bear with me. Terrific. Okay, so that's 3 pump jacks all linked up to these 2 storage tanks, and from those storage tanks we'll take those to some processing. But first let's get some power up in here. We're using the big electric poles. Now big electric poles, if you're using them as the final connection to your machines, your structures, you're doing it wrong. Their supply area is only 4x4. But their strength comes from the fact that their wires reach for 30 in a diagonal kind of route, which means that it's fantastic for traversing large distances of the world. Those red fellas over there, I ought to go and investigate maybe, but I've got no alarms going off. Anyway, so if you remember the placement of my copper mining, for example, if I were to get rid of all those wooden poles that are down there at the moment, and I imagine I'm using between 20 and 30 to distribute power out that far, I would actually be better off using half a dozen instead big electric poles, so these big steel numbers. But we'll have a couple of mediums as well, and then everybody's happy. Splendid. Right, so let's look a little more future with this thinking here, and we'll bang this one right in there, assuming it's going to be happy enough to fit. What's your attitude problem, mister? We'll stick it there. See how you like that? Yeah, okay, that's a mess. But as you can see, look, it's stretching for ages, and that's a big help. This is also going to be a big help when I inevitably add to my wall defences that will be increasingly built up by by switching to lasers. Right, okay, so you know what I was saying a minute ago about, oh, don't use your big pylons in order to power stuff. Well, yeah, okay, so sometimes it's worth using them to power stuff. But there we go, I had to stick a little one there. Right, so we're all pumping away. Everybody's happy. We've got flow coming through our pipes, not at a massive rate. And that's feeding these tanks. Splendid. Now, those of you who have stuck with this series since the first will remember that we've got this nice big scattering of crude oil up here in the furnace area, and that if I had even the slightest amount of sense, I'd have built it here instead, because there's 5 rather than 3, and therefore there's more of it. Yes, you're right, absolutely spot on. But when I came to look to where should I put this, I discovered I've put my furnaces right next to the flaming oil, and that's just all going to get in the way. So once we upgrade these bad boys here to electric furnaces, we actually need fewer of them, or rather they're more compact, because you don't have to worry about a coal belt. So a lot of this will go over some fairly radical overhauling when that time comes. I know it's something of a theme that we overhaul on a regular basis, but that's part of the fun of the game. We'll overhaul that, and then we should be able to free up a secondary oil hoovering kind of section. Okay, so we've got oil coming in. Now we need to turn that oil into something we can actually use. And initially, I think we'll go for 3 storage tanks. I'm going to go and need to grab some more steel. 3 storage tanks, 1 for each of the different constituent parts of crude oil that will appear majestically after we've refined it. Oil refined stone brick. And actually, one of the things I find quite satisfying is that over time of building up your factory settlement, you start to just know instinctively where you've kept stuff. So unlike a kind of first-person-y, adventure-y kind of a game where learning your way around a map takes flipping ages, you start to build up something that you know. I mean, this is not an insignificant size now, but I know exactly where my stone storage box is. I know where my iron is. I know where my gears are spewing out, and I know what that should look like at all times. I know it might not seem like a big deal to you, but it's just one of the reasons that I quite like this kind of thing, is that you're building a world that is of your own design. And as such, it's quite satisfying to be the one who knows where everything is. I know, maybe that's mad. Maybe I'm just filling time, waiting until I've got enough stone. One more, come on. Thank you. Grand, okay, so that's got us 2 refineries. I have to put that inserter back to work, and then we can go and do something productive. For productivity is what we are about. Get back to work. Okay, splendid. Right, we've got refineries. refinery. The second one's still being built. And we'll give them a reasonable amount of space from one another. They don't like to occupy the same space too heavily. To be honest, with only 3 pump jacks here, it's barely worth the effort of having 2. But I think I'm probably going to turn this into my my primary resource processing area for oil anyway. So over time, it will actually merit the amount of space and the amount of kind of processing that I'm plumbing into it. Okay, good. Everybody's cheerful there. We just need to root those out. And once we do so, we should roar into life, unless I've obviously done something wrong. I did build refineries, right? Yeah, I did. Okay, what's the problem then? What am I not doing? I'm going to figure it out. Someone will undoubtedly in comments go, dude, seriously, you should have totally spotted very quickly that you were doing that all wrong. What do I want next? Advanced electronics is, yeah, it's kind of handy, but I don't need it right now. We're not up to blue flasks yet. There we go, batteries, that'll do. Grand. Okay, so let's place our 3 happy-go-lucky storage tanks for the different product types. So we're going to need some more pipe. It's a never-ending pipe-creating trot through the woods. Everything is a trot somewhere. I'm going to figure out why it's not flowing sometime soon. I might not have even left enough space here. I've not left enough space here. Terrific. Now you may have a finer system of setting up your oil processing than this, in which case I'm all ears. One thing that I've not done actually in starting to play this game is I don't look at other people's builds. I like trying to figure stuff out for myself, and then after I've figured stuff out for myself and done it really badly, I go and look at how other people have done it and go like, oh yeah, that's quite smart, I should have done that. But you know, part of the fun is doing it your own way. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do it the way that everybody else has. But you know, it does carry a certain amount of satisfaction for being able to figure out this stuff for yourself, even though the end result is the same. But you see, the thing is that this is very few games actually have what could be described as an end game. The end game is most typically roll credits. Thank you very much for playing. Here's your name on the high scoreboard. Congrats. And you know, that's satisfying, but the journey is the bit that matters. That's the bit where you're going to derive the most pleasure from your investment, or certainly it's the bit where I derive the most pleasure from my investment. I would never attempt to speak on your behalf. I am waffling rather a lot. I apologize for this, but I'm trying to get this done while seamlessly providing some verbal entertainment, or at least some light-hearted brevity while I get this done. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it here, and I'm going to flip away, figure this stuff out, then come back to you, because that'll be the more straightforward thing to do. One moment, please.